Hi, it's Miss Becky with the Madison Library, and I'm here with Grandpa Bob.
I wanted this chance to talk a little bit about the story time that you put out last week, which was about summer birds and winter birds. And we have a little bit of a dilemma now as to whether Ducky Daddle is a summer bird or a winter bird. What did you learn from the story time?
Well, there are some birds that fly south for the winter, but then there are some birds that really enjoy the cold.
Really? Well, Ducky Daddle wasn't sure whether he was a winter bird or a summer bird, but I'm going to tell you the story about how he found out.
I can't wait to hear it.
Hi, this is Grandpa Bob again, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how Ducky Daddle learned whether he was a summer bird or a winter bird. Remember, he was up at a lake in New York, and this shows you where that lake is. That red mark up there is where that lake is. That's in New York, in the mountains in New York. And this red mark down here is where we are in Mississippi. So it was a long way up there. But he was up there in New York where it gets cold in the wintertime. But it's nice in the summertime. Remember, here's how it looked in the summertime when Ducky Daddle was there. That's a picture of the lake from the dock at Grandpa Bob's house up on the lake, because we lived on that lake too. And Ducky Daddle had a wonderful summer up there. This is many years ago, but he had a wonderful summer going, and he saw his friends. He went over to Massachusetts and saw his cousins, and he was having a great time. And at one point in the middle of the summer, somebody mentioned the word summer bird and as opposed to a winter bird. And Ducky Daddle wondered, what am I? Am I a summer bird or am I a winter bird? So Ducky Daddle went to his mom and dad and they talked. And his mom and dad said, well, Ducky Daddle, you're a summer bird. We always go south in the wintertime so that we don't have this cold and the ice and the snow. And that's what we enjoy. So you're a summer bird. But Ducky Daddle said, I've never seen the winter. How do I know that I'm a summer bird, really, if I don't see the winter? I want to see it sometime. And so they talked and they talked and they talked. But Ducky Daddle couldn't get that out of his mind. He wanted to see what winter was really like. So the rest of the summer, he enjoyed the time that he had at the lake, and he flew around the lake and he had time with his friends and so forth, but he couldn't get that question out of his mind. In the summer, when he was flying around the lake, he went past this house. This is a house in the summertime where Grandpa Bob and Grandma Lou lived. And you can see it's a pretty house with the flowers and all during the summertime. And Ducky Daddle thought, that really is very nice. And while he was there, flying around that house, he saw Grandpa Bob and Grandma Lou out on their pontoon boat. And they were going out for a ride on the lake. And you can see the lake is just beautiful in the summertime. And another thing that happened during the summertime was that Grandpa Bob and Grandma Lou had company. And Ducky Daddle was flying by their house one day, and he saw sitting on their dock, guess who? It was Miss Becky. And she had with her her then little daughter, Megan, who was 4 years old. And they were having a wonderful time at the lake too. They'd come up from Mississippi to visit. And Megan now is the youth specialist at the Canton branch of the Madison Library. So that you know that this was a lot of years ago. While they were there, Megan had a chance to go out on the lake with Grandpa Bob on a sailboat. And they had a wonderful time out there. And Ducky Daddle, while they were out on the lake, Ducky Daddle was out on the lake too, and Ducky Daddle saw them. And so he knew that they were having a wonderful time, just like he was. And Ducky Daddle kept talking with his mom and dad. Now, am I a summer bird or am I a winter bird? And they said, well, I guess we'll have to give you a chance to find out. So they say, we're going to stay here now this winter. And Ducky Daddle said, really? That'll be great. And so when the summer came close to an end, Ducky Daddle's friends and his cousins and all, they started flying south. And Ducky Daddle didn't see them anymore. And they said, Ducky Daddle, aren't you coming? And Ducky Daddle said, no, I want to see the winter. And so Ducky Daddle stayed there, and gradually, after the summer ended, it started getting a little bit colder. And it got a little colder, and Ducky Daddle noticed it. And finally, it got cold enough where there was a little bit of ice that formed on top of the lake. And Ducky Daddle couldn't really enjoy swimming anymore because he would have to go down and break the ice a little bit and get in for swimming. And so he thought, well, this is the start of winter, I guess. And gradually, as it got colder and colder, the ice got thicker and thicker and thicker. And Ducky Daddle couldn't get in the water at all. But he understood that was going to happen. And then there was a little bit of snow that came. And when the snow came, it was very pretty, but it meant that Ducky Daddle couldn't do some of the things that he did before. And here's a picture of how it looked when the snow first came. You can see the lake out there, which is now frozen. It's got ice on it, and you see the snow on the ground and on the trees and so forth. It was very pretty, and Ducky Daddle was flying around looking at all of that and enjoying it. But it wasn't really the bad part of winter yet. But as the snow got higher and higher, he noticed that people started doing different things. For example, he noticed people getting out on skis and doing what they called cross-country skiing, where they didn't go down hills, but they went on paths around the lake. And here are two of the people that he saw doing it. And there's Grandma Lou and Grandpa Bob, and they were having a good time. And another thing that Ducky Daddle saw that he'd never seen before, he saw some men walking out on the lake where it was frozen because the ice was now thick on the lake. They could even walk on it, and it was safe for them then. And they were walking on the lake, and they cleared off the snow off the ice, and they drilled some big holes into the ice. And they brought out their chairs and their fishing poles, and they were fishing through these holes in the ice. And Ducky Daddle had never seen that before. So he went home that night after he'd flown around the lake, and he told his mom and dad what he had seen and how that was so exciting to see those men drilling a hole in the ice and then fishing. And Ducky Daddle said, I'm glad I stayed to see that. And his mom and dad said, well, are you ready now to go south? Because it's really getting cold. And Ducky Daddle said, I know it's cold, but we really have to, I want to see what else is going to happen here in the wintertime. So one of the things that Ducky Daddle saw was that the houses, Grandpa Bob's and all the other houses, had snow on the roof. And as the snow, the heat in the house came up and melted a little bit of the snow, it would drip down to the edge and drip off. And it formed what they called icicles. And he thought icicles were going to be kind of small little things that would look pretty, because the ice would come down, the water would come down and start to drip, and then it would freeze and it would stay there. But what Ducky Daddle, one day when he went past Grandpa Bob's house, he saw some icicles that really were something off the roof of Uncle Bob's house. And here they are. Did you ever see anything like that? Icicles that big? Ducky Daddle knew that they were in now for a real winter, and things were very cold. So Ducky Daddle went home and he told his mom and dad about these icicles, and they were very surprised. In fact, they went out and flew over to look at them too. When they got back, the mom and dad said, Ducky Daddle, you've seen some winter now. Can't we go south? Don't you think it would be a good idea? And Ducky Daddle said, I'm not ready yet. I'm cold, but I'm not ready yet. And then the next day, it started to snow. And it snowed, and it snowed, and it snowed, and it was a big snow. And it covered a lot of the lake. And when Ducky Daddle got out the next day after the snow, and the sun was shining, he could see how big the snow had been. And when he flew past Grandpa Bob's house, this is what he saw.
Wow.
Grandpa Bob kept a picture of it. Look at that.
Wow.
And you can see how high the snow got and how high it is on the roof. And Ducky Daddle was very impressed and excited to see that. But when he went back, he realized there wasn't anything more he could do, really. He couldn't fly when the snow was coming down, because the snow would get on his wings, and the snow was taller than he was now on the ground, and he couldn't go on the lake because it was so cold and the ice was so thick. So Ducky Daddle flew back home to his mom and dad, and he said, "Okay, I think I know now." And they say, "What do you know, Ducky Daddle?" And he said, "I'm a summer bird. Let's go south. I'm cold." So his mom and dad said, "Great, let's go." And the next morning they packed up and they flew all the way back down to Mississippi. And when they got to Mississippi, they went to a lake that they had gone to before, which was just outside Madison, and it was called Barnett Reservoir, and it was a beautiful body of water. And when they landed there, they found all of the cousins and his friends from up north. They'd gone down there too. So Ducky Daddle was so happy, and the cousins came up to him and said, "Ducky Daddle, tell us what winter is like. We've never seen it." So Ducky Daddle told them all the stories about winter, and he had a wonderful experience. But there's one other thing that happened. The next year, Ducky Daddle, of course, just went up for the summer the next year. But that next year, Grandpa Bob and Grandma Lou decided that they wanted to go south for the winter. So they drove down to Mississippi when the winter started, and they stayed with Megan and Kate and Miss Becky and had a wonderful time during the winter months down there, and did that for several years after that. And so I think what we could really say is Grandpa Bob and Grandma Lou now are summer birds too.
What a great story. Ducky Daddle certainly is a summer bird. Grandpa Bob and Grandma Lou are summer birds too. Of course, I grew up in the north. I guess that makes me a summer bird as well. I sure like it here in Mississippi. Thanks for a great story, Grandpa Bob.